Hi guys, welcome back TV Spoilers. Young and the Restless revealed that Stacy is confirmed to return as Patty this March, and that single piece of news already makes the air in Genoa City feel compressed, tense, as if the entire town is holding its breath and waiting for one small touch to shatter everything. The feeling that something is coming does not rise from simple excitement. It rises from the audience's collective memory of what Patty always brings with her. She never arrives just to stir a little trouble. She arrived to bend people's minds, to pry open hairline fractures in their hearts and widen them into deep, swallowing cracks. If Mariah has survived the chaos surrounding Dominic and Ian, it is not because she is unbreakable, but because she has been clinging to a few fragile anchors that will help her call herself back. Those anchors are slipping now. In Patty's presence, entering Mariah's life at a moment when she is already standing on the edge of a psychological collapse could become the final push that sends her sliding into a version of herself that even Sharon and Tessa would struggle to recognize. Not a healthier Mariah, not a reborn Mariah, but a distorted one, guided and molded by narratives she is too unstable to fight. Mariah at this point is not simply someone who went through a shock and needs rest. She is someone carrying sustained trauma, and the most dangerous part is that her instability will not always announce itself with screams or dramatic outbursts. Sometimes it hides in silence, numbness, blank spaces in memory, sudden dread for no obvious reason when she sees a hospital corridor, a locked door, or even a stranger's gaze lingering too long. People may want to believe Mariah just needs time, but the colder truth is that she needs proper treatment inside a psychiatric facility, somewhere she can be monitored, assessed, and protected, not only from reckless impulses, but from the slow, nightly self-destruction that can grow in the dark when guilt and fear are left untreated. It sounds too cruel to say she needs to be confined, but sometimes the most humane thing is to admit a hard boundary. Mariah cannot keep drifting through half-awareness and hope for a miracle. She needs structure. She needs a place where her survival does not depend on luck. The fact that treatment at the clinic in Boston did not help only makes the story heavier, because it suggests that problem is not simply that Mariah has to be sent away for care. If the doctors there were incompetent, or worse, if they failed to recognize how far her mental state had already slipped, then the treatment became little more than a thin layer of paint over rot. They might have seen surface symptoms, prescribed standard medication, offered generic therapy, and trusted that time would smooth everything out. But Mariah is not living with ordinary sadness. She is living inside the aftermath of guilt, terror, obsession, fractured trust, and psychological manipulation, and when these forces are not named correctly and treated carefully, they collect pressure until they explode. Boston becomes more than a failed attempt at healing. It becomes a warning sign. If Mariah keeps receiving care that only quiets symptoms instead of confronting the deeper damage, she becomes more vulnerable than ever to anyone who offers her a clean story that sounds convincing. A coherent lie can be the strongest anchor for a mind desperate to stop spinning. Then there is the reality Genoa City cannot avoid. After everything connected to Dominic's kidnapping, Mariah needs to be held somewhere for a period of time. Not because people want revenge, not because punishment feels satisfying, but because she needs containment and protection. She needs limits that reduce the risk of another dangerous spiral, and she needs time in a controlled environment where her mental state can be stabilized. The hope is that she does not mean prison. Prison would only cement Mariah into the role of a criminal, reduce her paperwork and gossip, lock up her body while leaving her mind untreated and unattended. Prison can restrain her, but it cannot heal her. What Mariah needs is a psychiatric hospital, something strict enough to prevent reckless decisions, but specialized enough to help her face the truth without being crushed by it. And that choice opens the most believable path for Patty's return. The last anyone heard, Patty was still being treated in a psychiatric institution. So the idea of her suddenly appearing in the same world as Mariah is not a random twist. It is the kind of chilling coincidence soaps use to sharpen psychological horror. Imagine Mariah stepping into a new facility, trying to adjust to new rules, evaluations, sterile hallways, doors that open and close with codes. She is already struggling to trust her own mind, already exhausted from feeling like she cannot fully remember what she thinks or controls. Then she meets Patty. No dramatic greeting is required. No violence is necessary. Patty's gaze alone, her uncanny calm, her ability to look at Mariah like she is studying a cracked mirror could be enough to make Mariah flinch. Patty does not move like the others. She carries the strange stillness of someone who has lived too long in the deepest rooms of obsession, and that stillness makes people uneasy because it feels like certainty without warmth. Patty may want to befriend Sharon Newman's daughter, and what makes that frightening is that friendship is never harmless in Patty's hands. For Patty, closeness is a method of entry. She knows to find the softest place in someone's spirit and place herself there as comfort. With Mariah, the softest place is not only fear, but the aching need to be understood, the need for someone who will not judge for her Dominic, for Ian, for the desperate choices she made under unbearable pressure. Patty can present herself as a fellow survivor, someone who also has scars tied to Ian, someone who knows exactly what it feels like to be haunted by him. Patty might share sorrow with Mariah about Ian, and that shared grief can become a powerful, dangerous bond. Mariah does not have much to explain, because Patty will nod as if she already knows. In that moment, Mariah could feel relief for the first time in a long time, and that relief is the real trap. Because feeling understood can make someone hand over the key to their mind without realizing what they are doing. While Mariah is being placed in a locked environment for treatment, Ian's story still hangs in the air like a blade that has not dropped. The image of Ian grasping and opening his eyes in the back of an ambulance is not a detail that fades away. It is a signal. Fans saw the real Ian in that final moment. Not a man defeated, not a monster punished, but a predator still breathing, still calculating, still capable of vanishing. That suggests Ian could be secretly alive, no matter what Genoa City believes. And a town's false certainty can be the most dangerous thing of all, because it breeds complacency. If everyone thinks Ian is gone, they stop watching for him. If they stop watching, Mariah becomes the most perfect target. Fragile, guilt-ridden, easily triggered, isolated in a place that seems safe on paper but is full of psychological blind spots. From there, Patty and Mariah could easily become part of a larger mystery surrounding Ian if he begins hunting them again. Nothing new has to be added for this to feel inevitable. The existing pieces already form a cold line of logic. Ian may be alive in secret, Mariah is placed in a psychiatric hospital, Patty is already connected to that world, and Patty's own history with Ian gives her and Mariah a shared wound that can bind them. Ian does not have to appear openly. He can exist like a ghost, an idea that makes Patty and Mariah tense, sleepless, convinced they are being watched. His pursuit does not have to be physical at first. It can be a chase inside the mind, a vague message that slips through like a crack, a small sign that convinces Patty Ian is near, a nightmare that sends Mariah into a panic because she suddenly sees the flash of an ambulance in her sleep. When fear becomes the air itself, Patty becomes even more capable of playing the role of a protector. And Mariah, in her fragile state, becomes even more likely to cling Patty as if she is shelter. But there is another possibility, and it is terrifying in a different way. The audience could watch Patty manipulate Mariah as part of Patty's own escape. Patty is Patty. She can turn empathy into a weapon. If she wants out, she needs a lever, someone easily influenced, someone who can create distraction or become a convenient scapegoat. Mariah, with her unstable condition and her recent history, is dangerously easy to position as the one who caused the incident. Patty could plant small ideas in Mariah's head, tiny doubts, subtle beliefs that grow like poison. They are holding you here unfairly. They will never forgive you. You have to save yourself. Patty can make Mariah believe escaping is not wrong, but necessary, an act of survival. Patty does not need to threaten Mariah with force. She only needs to adjust the story inside until a bad choice feels logical. And once Mariah begins changing not in appearance, but in how she interprets reality, she becomes a different person. Colder, more suspicious, more willing to fight, and that aligns with what this arc has been suggesting all along. Patty's return could flip Mariah psychologically, reshaping her into someone unrecognizable, someone built out of trauma and manipulation. What makes this storyline so heavy is that every link has a reason to exist. Mariah needs real treatment because Boston failed and she is not safe inside her own mind. Confinement in a psychiatric hospital makes sense because it avoids prison but still creates necessary control. Patty's presence makes sense because she was already in that world. Patty befriending Mariah makes sense because their pain has common thread. Ian being secretly alive makes sense because that ambulance moment planted doubt. And when these logical pieces stack on top of each other, they create the kind of tension that Y&R does best. Everyone is standing on thin ice, no one knowing when the cracking sound will finally carry across the surface. Sharon can feel danger even before she sees it. Tessa can be torn apart by helplessness because every time she reaches for Mariah, Mariah retreats further, trusting someone else instead of her. But the heart of the story is Mariah's inner conflict, split between guilt and the hunger to be forgiven, between the fear of abandonment and the need to cling, between the desire to be herself and the exhaustion that makes her willing to let someone else rewrite her life. And honestly, thinking about this direction leaves me feeling two things at once: excitement and ache. Excitement, because it pulls Y&R back toward what it can do so well: psychology, obsession, relationships tested until they crack. Ache because Mariah, even with her mistakes, has always felt like someone who wants to be saved, and every time she reaches toward the light, the darkness finds a more sophisticated way to drag her back. I keep wondering how many times a person can survive before they start believing they were born only to be destroyed. How much love it takes to pull Mariah out of a mental trap built by people who understand what she needs better than she does. Patty entering now feels like a cold gust aimed at a weakening candle, and it would only take a blink for Mariah to disappear from her own life, not through death, but through replacement, a version of her molded by someone else's hands. The scariest part is that while Genoa City keeps reassuring that Ian is finished, that the danger is over, somewhere behind the locked doors of a psychiatric hospital could be sitting behind Mariah, patiently planting a new seed in her mind, right as the ghost of Ian, still breathing, still alive, begins tracing a path back. And this time he may not come to capture Mariah at all. He may come to claim her. On our TV Spoilers channel, I always seek content inspiration for each video by compiling short video clips to analyze and offer my personal opinions. This channel specializes in analyzing, theorizing, and discussing plot points in the Young and the Restless series from the perspective of a longtime fan. Through this, viewers can gain deeper, more objective, and more interesting perspectives.